Okay, let's dive in. Think about this for a second. Your body, right? It's got this amazing built-in toolkit for repair and defense. And sometimes science finds the really powerful stuff isn't some external drug, but actually molecules our body already makes. Today, we're unpacking one of those, palmitoylethanolamide, PEA for short.
That's right. It's not something foreign you take. It's endogenous, a fatty acid amide your own cells produce. Especially when those cells are stressed or injured, it's like a first responder on a cellular level. Actually, the Nobel laureate Rita Levi-Montalcini even coined a term related to this idea, ALIENs, autocoid local injury antagonists.
Amides. Okay, fancy term for the body's own localized fix-it crew.
Essentially, yes. Local responder.
Right. So our mission for this deep dive, let's track this molecule story, understand its biology, which sounds fascinating, see how it works, and really look at what the clinical science is showing. Where might it actually be relevant for you? We're exploring one of your body's own protective systems.
Exactly, and how researchers are looking to maybe harness that potential. What's really interesting, as the sources point out, is how PEA works. It's not just one thing. Think of it less like one key for one lock, and maybe more like a molecular Swiss Army knife.
A Swiss Army knife. Okay, I like that analogy. How does it manage to hit so many different targets?
Well, one of the big ways is through a receptor inside the cell nucleus. It's called PPAR-alpha. PPAR-alpha acts like a sort of master switch. It can dial down the genes involved in inflammation.
Ah, okay, so PEA flips this switch, telling the cell, hey, calm down the inflammation, reducing things like TNF-alpha.
Precisely. TNF-alpha, interleukins, those kinds of inflammatory signals. And that's a slower effect. It's genomic-changing gene expression.
Okay, a master anti-inflammatory switch. Makes sense, but I've also seen it linked pretty strongly with pain relief. Is that the same switch doing that?
Not entirely, and this is where it gets, well, even cooler. Besides that slower gene stuff, PEA also has quicker actions, including on pain. And it doesn't always need PPAR-alpha for that. Plus, it has this really neat link to the body's endocannabinoid system.
Ah, right. The system with anandamide, the bliss molecule. So does PEA directly hit those cannabinoid receptors? Like CBD or THC might?
No, not directly on the main CB1 or CB2 receptors. It's more subtle. See, your body makes its own anandamide to regulate mood, pain, all sorts of things.
Okay.
But there's an enzyme, FAH, that breaks anandamide down pretty quickly.
Okay.
PEA actually gets in the way of FAH. It inhibits that enzyme.
So wait, TEA stops the enzyme that degrades your natural feel-good molecule, like it helps your own anandamide stick around longer.
You got it. It boosts the levels and duration of your own anandamide. It amplifies its natural effects. That's part of what some people call the entourage effect, where different compounds work synergistically. And it also seems, through that PPAR-alpha pathway, to make the CB2 receptors a bit more receptive. Plus, it interacts with a few other things, some pain channels too.
Wow. Okay, so it really is multi-targeted. No wonder it's being looked at for complex conditions, right? Where inflammation and pain are tangled up.
Exactly. But, understanding how it worked wasn't the only challenge. The sources really stressed that delivery was a huge issue.
Right, just having PEA wasn't enough.
Yeah.
Getting it into the system effectively.
Absolutely. Plain PEA isn't absorbed very well. The real step forward came with technology to make the particles much, much smaller. Micronization, and especially ultramicronization. That's PEPO.
Ultramicronized. And why is that so important? Better absorption.
Better absorption, yes, but critically, that ultra-tiny size helps it cross the blood-brain barrier. That's vital if you're trying to target issues in the brain or nervous system.
Ah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it explains why you see these specific formulations mentioned, sometimes combined with other things?
Yes, exactly. These smart co-formulations, like PEALUT, that's ultramicronized PEA with luteolin, which is an antioxidant. That combo is often studied for neuroinflammation, like in post-COVID smell loss. You get the PEA effect plus the antioxidant boost.
A 1-2 punch?
Kind of. And there's also PEA combined with alpha-lipoic acid, or ALA. Another antioxidant often used in nerve issues like diabetic neuropathy, again, tackling inflammation and nerve protection together.
Okay, so formulation matters. Let's pivot to where the science is actually stacking up. Glaucoma seemed like a strong area in the sources.
Yes, very much so. Quite a few studies show that adding PEA to standard glaucoma treatment significantly lowers intraocular pressure, the IOP.
How does it do that?
It seems to help the fluid drain out of the eye more effectively, interacting with some of those receptors we talked about, like GPAR-55 and PPAR-alpha, right there in the eye tissues.
Lowering pressure is key, obviously. But was there more?
Yes, and this is really interesting. Some studies suggest it might offer neuroprotection, protecting the optic nerve, maybe preserving visual fields better than just lowering pressure alone would. That's a huge potential benefit.
Definitely more than just pressure.
Yeah.
Okay, what about smell loss after COVID? That's
Yeah.
obviously been a big topic.
Right. Here, the evidence looks pretty solid, too. Moderate to
Well-
strong, especially for that PEALUT combo alongside olfactory training, smell therapy. Studies are showing actual improvements in quantitative smell tests, identifying odors better.
So it backs up the idea that inflammation in the olfactory system is part of the problem post-virus.
It supports that idea, yes, targeting that neuroinflammation. One nuance the sources mention is that recovery from parosmia distorted smells might be less complete sometimes, maybe more complex nerve rewiring involved there.
Got it. Different aspects of smell recovery. Now, what about hearing? Tinnitus specifically.
Tinnitus, that's still very much an emerging area. The thinking behind it makes sense, potentially targeting neuroinflammation in the auditory pathways. But honestly, the clinical proof just isn't robust yet. There are trials, like the PEA trial mentioned, but we're waiting for results.
So for tinnitus, it's more of a watch this space.
Definitely. Cautious optimism, perhaps, but hold off on strong conclusions for now.
Okay, and you touched on something earlier, historical data about the lungs.
Yes. This was fascinating. Turns out there were studies back in the 1970s looking at PEA for influenza. Showed some potential benefits even then, and that research got looked at again with COVID-19. The idea is PEA might help calm down that massive inflammatory overreaction, the cytokine storm, by stabilizing certain immune cells, like mast cells, inhibiting key inflammatory pathways like NF-kappa B, modulating those cytokine signals. There's strong preclinical data and some supportive, though preliminary, clinical observations from the COVID era. Huge potential impact for respiratory infections, but
Needs more rigorous trials.
absolutely, large-scale, proper clinical trials are needed to confirm that potential.
Makes sense. And quickly, what about safety?
Generally seems quite good. Based on the sources, very few side effects reported, mostly rare, mild stomach upset. And a big plus clinically is the lack of significant drug interactions noted so far.
That is a big advantage. Okay,
Yeah.
so if we synthesize this landscape quickly, glaucoma and post-COVID smell loss look like the areas with the most solid evidence currently. Moderate to strong.
That seems fair, yes, based on the current research discussed.
Well, things like tinnitus and the lung applications like influenza are more emerging. Promising ideas needing more proof.
Exactly right. Emerging areas with good rationale, but the clinical data needs to catch up.
So looking ahead, what are the big questions? Long-term data seems key, especially for that neuroprotection aspect.
Yes, long-term effects. Also, figuring out who benefits most are their biomarkers, and definitely more large, rigorous trials for influenza, other respiratory infections, perhaps even exploring other neuroinflammatory conditions where it might fit.
It really is fascinating, though, isn't it? PEA as this example of the body's own intelligent response system, a molecule that's been inside us all along.
It's an elegant system. And unlocking its full therapeutic potential, well, that's going to require continued careful science, exploring all those different targets.
It really makes you think. Understanding these kinds of built-in endogenous compounds feels like a truly exciting frontier in health, doesn't it?